I want to welcome you to the Life Safety Podcast, and thank you for taking the time out today to have this conversation. And just to start off, tell us a little bit about yourself, Mike. I know a little bit about you. I know I actually met you back in 2014, 2015 at the TAFM Interlink in Dallas,
Okay, yeah,
the
yeah.
local chapter, the ASHE chapter for Texas, and you were then promoting the HFL, Healthcare Facilities Leadership, which we'll get
Wow.
into. But tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I grew up in Michigan. I don't know if we can go that far back, but I'm a pretty strong Wolverine fan. But I ended up going to an engineering school called DeVry and getting an engineering degree, engineering technology degree, electronics. Went into healthcare as a biomedical engineer. Worked in laboratory equipment, worked on medical equipment throughout the hospital, radiology, surgery, things like that. And then became a facilities director, our director of clinical or biomedical engineering. Expanded from one hospital to five hospitals, which really gave me a neat insight on accreditation because I got to go through accreditation with five hospitals
Oh
every
wow,
3 years. So I got to learn how different it is between a larger hospital and a small hospital.
definitely.
And back then we had the nurse surveyor. We didn't have the life
Right,
safety surveyor.
right.
And
You
then I
didn't have
got to
that
go,
dedicated life safety surveyor.
yeah, then I saw the life safety surveyor transition occur, became part of that. And I moved into facilities. And I was asked to take on facilities because I'd kind of taken my biomedical department I was trying to get them ISO 9000, I think 9004, I believe it was, certified. And my administrator said, why are you doing that? I said, because something could happen to me. And my goal is to put a foundation in place of policy, procedures, and training and processes that if something happens to me, it goes on.
Right.
That's kind of what, to me, the standard meant. And he said, okay, enough. Because he says there's nobody in the country that's ISO biomedical certified like this. He said, why don't you try to go in facilities and see if you can help organize that environment? I actually didn't want to do it. I was pretty happy with where I was at. And I was
Mm,
like, I kind of said, why me?
right.
Because I worked so hard to get to a place. And he convinced me to do it. And so I went into facilities and I found immediately I was given an ESOC paper document, survey was coming, and I was supposed to fill it out for the statement of condition. And actually it was the paper edition of it. And I remember going through all those standards. And there were three sections. There was remember there was a hospital section, there was an ambulatory section, and then there was another one, like maybe it was behavior health or something like that. And I'm looking at these different sections. I'm looking at all the standards. I'm walking around the building with the leadership and the supervisors and previous director. I'm saying, well, who understands this? Who can I talk to that knows about all this life safety stuff or NFPA 99,
Right.
NFPA 101 stuff? Honestly, nobody really could help me. They said, you're just going to have to learn it on your own and figure it out.
Wow.
And that was my introduction to facilities. And I was like, wow,
Mm,
this was pretty amazing. And I felt like I was always drinking from a fire hose in facilities. And so, I really ground at it. I found out, getting involved with a network just became really powerful. I got involved with
right.
ASHE back in those days, early in the 90s. And again, just meeting people along the way and being able to have resources. Your vendors, your contractors, they were a valuable resource. And you just learned as much as you could, as fast as you could. And it really took about the second accreditation cycle where I felt like, okay, I got my arms around this. And then really, I started to see the industry change.
Mm,
I really felt the change, that competency based, train the people, this like going back to Astrea 188, waterborne pathogens, or, Legionella, 2005. And I saw it back then going, wow, okay, we got to get our arms around this thing. It's coming.
right.
And everybody was like, yeah, sure.
Right.
Well, it finally arrived in 2015. It took a little while, but it showed
Right.
up, right? And
Right.
now it's showing up in the standards next year as being
Yeah.
something they're going to look at. So I kept seeing these things change. Emergency management, I was over that. I saw that go from 18 elements of performance to 190 elements of performance. Ask you, are you prepared? I kept
Right.
seeing all these shifts. I said, my gosh, we all need to get involved in this education here. And I was always pushing education with my staff. And I just found that, it was challenging. And so really that kind of brought me all the way to the opportunity to go into academia. This opportunity to, I think it was 2014, was it? Yeah, 2013, where OCTC, ASHE, the Kentucky Society of Healthcare Engineers, this college, they offer, there's this position coming available. And all my peers were like, Mike, you need to look into it,
Mm.
because they knew what an educator was. I helped found the Virginia Society in 2004, Vichy.
Oh wow.
I was
Okay.
one of the founding members. And so we were all about education. We were starting to bring technicians to training even then. We were saying, we got to start bringing our staff. We got to developing not just managers and stuff like that. So we were big into trying to push education for everybody in facilities at the time. Never really got it to a point where it was really effective. And then this came up, and I kind of made the leap. You know, it really was a leap. It was a huge change to go from what I was doing to, you know, a program director at a community college, developing basically a raw program.
Wow.
You know, from scratch, built around the CHFM. That was what I had. My guidance was CHFM.
Right.
and you got to build an associate's degree. And it really took me about 2 years to get the degree and all the classes built, get them accredited and everything else. And during that whole time, I was being asked by the people in the program, because a lot of folks in the program are technicians who are now directors of their own all over the country, say, right. Mike, we need something for our technicians. And so I start working on the technician pathway, you know, a couple of years in. And so now I'm excited to say I've got the leadership pathway in place. I've got a technician pathway in place, got a certification pathway in place. And I think, as importantly, I now have a course called Healthcare Facility Orientation, which is an orientation for everybody in healthcare buildings.
Okay.
So that's kind of my journey. That's you know, a little bit about me. Again, it's been 33 years now, 34 years in healthcare, the healthcare industry. Wow. Hard to believe, you know, and I was really advantaged by having a bachelor's degree. I have to mention that. You know, I was 20-some years old, 26 years old, 27 years old, and I was given the opportunity to go into facilities because I had a bachelor's degree.
Nice.
You know, and ironically, and I say this all the time, a lot of people come into facilities because of the degree, not necessarily because of their facility knowledge.
Right.
Per se. They have leadership skills,
right,
and have their degree. And you see that a lot, but you have to learn those facilities pieces. And it takes a while to pick up on that. But my degree definitely helped me. It was the difference maker for me getting into that facilities director's role, you know, back in the 90s.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so you got this program that's called, so the orientation, what is that? Is that an introduction to healthcare facilities or
originally? I wanted to, because when I say healthcare facilities leadership, I get a lot of people who come to me thinking it's an administrative pathway. If you just look at it, you know, generically,
right? And
so they think, and I know that a lot of people don't even know what it is that work in facilities. What exactly is this? So I wanted to put a class together that kind of gave them a flavor of what the program was about. Okay. And so originally, I put my energy into a product called Safe Day One. You know, Safe Day One is something that Ashy, Kishi, I helped them put it together. I maintain it. And it's an orientation for contractors and technicians into the environment. To me, I consider it kind of a credentialing tool. Okay. And my idea was to put together this comprehensive introduction to the facilities environment, physical environment. And it's been a great success. I just added a pandemic module. Wow. Again, great success. Everyone has taken it, valuable. It helps prepare for the physical environment worker certification, you know, for ASHI. And I thought I was going to emulate that course into a class for academics, but something happened along the way. And what happened was I realized that a lot of people, I taught orientation for 20 plus years, okay, in healthcare. I did the environmental care joint commission, right? Physical environment, neutral. Right. And I realized that I was getting less and less time to cover everything. I mean, you had to cover emergency management, you had to cover security, and you had to cover, you know, MSDS and EVS, you had to cover facilities, you had to cover all, you know, codes, and you had to cover all this stuff, fire extinguishers, all this stuff. And I started with 4, I got down to 1 hour at the end of it all. So you're just flying through all this stuff. Right. And I realized that we never even really got to talk to the folks about so many things that they really should know about in the physical environment. And so what happened was, epiphany came to me, said, you know what, let me make this class not just about facilities from a facilities technician perspective. Let's make this a class about the air environment we share, you know, and the changes that come along the way. You know, we know that ambulatory care has got a lot more focus. We know, and even more recently, the business office buildings now have more focus. They're going to have elements of performance specific to the business occupancies now. You know,
where in the past you wouldn't go into a business occupancy. Yeah. Now surveyors are going to go into the business side.
So the users and the technicians, now mind you, in a hospital, you got a director, a manager, supervisor, staff. There's a lot of command and control per se, not always in the small and medium facilities, but the larger ones for sure. But now you got these technicians and these folks that are out in these ambulatory surgicals or these administrative type buildings that may have some clinics inside of them, you know, doing vaccines and who knows what else. And now they're looking at all of it.
Right.
And so the person in those buildings needs to have a much more comprehensive understanding of life safety, another comprehensive understanding of infection prevention, a more comprehensive understanding of ventilation systems, you know, a more comprehensive understanding of sterilization and cleaning techniques and surfaces. You know, you can't just go put a wood shelf over there.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's an affection issue now. So they need to have this comprehensive understanding. And we see that with nursing. We see that with almost everybody. Because now you have decentralized healthcare. You know, you see that with life safety. There's a much more focus now on life safety in these outpatient buildings, right?
Right.
And so, so that really made me realize too that the technicians really needed to have something more comprehensive, and the people in the building working in the building needed to have some awareness. You know, we in facilities kind of blame the user an awful lot for their behaviors.
Right.
You know, they don't seem to understand, you know, about, you know, one side of the hallway. They don't seem to understand about not blocking doors, you know, and with wedges. And they don't seem to, we say, you know, all these things, right? So this class sort of brings those worlds together. It's an overlap. In fact, I like to say it's for every person in the hospital. And it also serves the purpose of introducing people to the program, what is healthcare facilities. And more importantly, it really helps. It's a class that's built on success. My goal is for you to pass this class. 1 credit hour class. I made it as inexpensive as I possibly could. It's 8 weeks, 1 credit hour. And what's neat about it is you can take the quizzes until you pass it. It's a pass-fail class. Okay. And the idea that introduces people to it, you know, most of my students, I would say probably 50, 60% have no education beyond high school. And they don't think they're college material.
Right.
And this class introduces them to it, introduces them to online, introduces them to, you know, college education. And it's a great way for them to just feel it out. So it's like a dip your toe test drive.
Gotcha.
You know, and like I said, it's not, you know, the other classes are a little more challenging, I admit it, but this one is really designed as an introductory. And I think the benefit of it too, it's an ambassador for the facilities folks. People in the building will look at you differently because they don't realize all that we're responsible for. And this class really gives you a feel of it. For example, we cover ventilation in the 85 unique spaces. I actually have to do calculations on airflows, diffusers, and differential. Everybody.
Nice.
Okay. I go through a lot of the life safety stuff. I go through a lot of the electrical and oxygen, you know, information. You know, we go through all, I call it, you know, in the ventilation, I call it the air we share section, right? I go through the regulatory, how complex the regulatory environment is for us when it comes to codes, compliance, and adoption. You know, and just so they have a feel that, you know, sometimes we get that look like when they want us just to say yes, and we go, they see us thinking.
Right.
You know, we're thinking because we're going, wait a second. Okay, travel distance. I'm cutting that in half. Okay, no, I can't put a door there.
Right.
You know, they don't understand why you can't put a door there.
Right.
You know, we got all this stuff going on in their head, right? And I was always that way. They asked me a question. I would almost like stun me. I'm going, okay. Oh. Is they like, there's something wrong? No. I'm just trying to figure this out. Can I do this? You know? And I had to learn to say, you know, yeah, I think, let me look into it, you know, and go look at the code and compliance and see if I could do it or not do it, you know. But yeah, we have a lot of responsibility. And this class also lets them see, shines a little bit light into our world. It says, yeah, you know, we're on NFPA 101 2012 because CMS adopted it July 5th, 2016.
Right.
You know?
It gives you the why behind everything.
Yeah. You know, and so on and so forth. So it's a really cool class that does just that. It really kind of hopefully brings us together. And one of the most important girders to it, what really drove this was the CMMS annual report that it looks at accreditation. Okay, right. All accreditation, all the AOs, you know, Joint Commission, DNV, AAAC, all those folks, they do a report every year. And inside that report, they actually do validation surveys and they do disparity rates. And when they drill right down to it, what is the biggest issue? The physical environment.
Right.
By far. And it lists the issues, mostly life safety, right?
Right.
And so I'm addressing those issues. Everything is built around all those issues that we've not been able to really fix over the last, decades. So that's built into this class. That drives that's the undertone for this class as well. And again, it's the stuff that we share. So HFO 100 for a 1 credit hour class, I was asked by the folks when they approved it at the state level, can you get through all this stuff? Now, granted, I kind of gloss it. I don't go too deep, and I hold people's hands through it all. You know, I have one section where I have them go to NFPA 1, the free PDF access. I have them drill into 101. I have them go to chapter 18 and 19, and I have them find the very specific code that tells us we can have 1-inch undercuts on doors. But where and why? You know, but they all have to go do this. I'm talking about, I had IT people, I had nurses, I had surveyors, I had managers, I have all these people. I'll be honest, I had my wife sign up for the class to go through it. And they all had to go through that and drill into that code and find that little nuance. And I gave my phone number. I said, if you get stuck, I'm your lifeline. Just text me and I'll help you out.
Right.
You know, in case they got lost, you know, in the code book trying to find it. So think
No,
about
that's
that.
a great exercise to have them actually navigate it. Yeah.
Actually navigate it. And then also I definitely have navigate to chapter 2 of 99 and 101. Why? What version are we on? Go to chapter 2. I've gotten that question, heard that question, I don't know how many times over the years. And it's, hey, go to chapter 2. There it is. You know what, you want to know what version of 80? There it is. Chapter 2, 2010.
All the reference publications.
Yeah, the reference publications. Exactly. So it's a great orientation, I think, for, again, it's the kind of, I say it's the kind of orientation we wish we could give, but we never would be given the time to do it.
And this is available, the curriculum via online?
Through the college. It's through the college. It's a 1 credit hour class. You know, you can even come to us without doing the full, like, you know, transfer or anything. You know, if you're paying out of pocket, it's real quick and easy. You know, I have this writable PDF application. I get you in real easy. You know, you don't even have to provide all your transcripts and like you do typically when you're getting into. Now, if you decide you want to go into a credential, you want to get into one of the academic credentials, then we have to get into all the other stuff, like you're becoming a regular student here at the college. Yeah.
Okay. And what are some of those other credentials? So that you got the orientation one, and then in an ideal world, that would then follow into which next credential?
Well, I have packed that into every credential I have. Again, that's HFO 100. It's designed for every student on the campus. You know, if you work in HVAC, electrical, plumbing, nursing, pharmacy, radiology, wherever, you can take this class as a 1 credit hour elective, you know, but I also made it part of the credentials, the certificate, the diplomas, and the degrees.
Are they any of these prerequisites to each other, or you can take those as standalone courses?
The HFO you take standalone.
Okay.
Okay. I have 2 certificates. Now, certificates are really unique in academia in this. A certificate, they're industry specific. So you don't need to take English reading and math. You don't have to have English reading and math placement. That's very important for a lot of people. They don't want to take English reading and math.
Right.
And I have one that's for the technicians called HFT, Healthcare Facility Technician. I have one for leadership called HFF, Healthcare Facilities Foundation. Those 2 certificates give you a pathway to say, hey, I just want to get better at being a technician, or I'm looking at being a supervisor or a lead, or maybe I do want to go into management director. And so I think they're both around, one's 16 credit hours, one's 18 credit hours. Actually, one's only 10 credit hours because I give 8 hours of experiential credit. I'll talk about that later. But I give experiential credit for the technician one. And you can get that experiential credit basically 3 ways. I have a set of competencies you can get completed and signed off by your employer. You can pass the CHFT and submit it. And more recently, I've got 21 different training videos that you can complete the module and it'll satisfy the experiential credit.
Oh, wow.
So all 3 of those ways will allow you the 8 credit hours, $2,000 worth of tuition covered. You take the other 10 credit hours of classes, includes HFO 100, and you get an HFT. And you should be fully prepared now for the CHFT. Again, I married those 2 together, just like you do for pharmacy, just like you would do for a laboratory, just like you would do for surgical, just like you do for radiology. Here's this credential. Here's this certification. And they work together. So that's the technician, HFT. HFF, it's what's called a stackable credential. It's the first step in the leadership pathway. So those 16 credit hours covers all the 100 level classes for HFL. And what happens is when you complete that, you get the HFF, Healthcare Facility Foundation Certificate. Then if you want, you say, I'm going to go on to the diploma. And after the diploma, I'm going to go on to the degree. And they're what's called stackable. So the certificate's like 16 credit hours. The diploma is like 42, 43 credit hours. And the degree, I believe, is like 63 credit hours. You get those. And
all those ultimately are transferable into the HFL program?
Well, those are all HFL. Those are all HFL. Okay. Those are all leadership pathway. Yeah, HFF is the one that doesn't have the HFL designation, has an HFF designation. But if you get the HFL diploma, you have the HFL designation. And the people that get the diploma are typically 2 people. One, they already have a degree. Okay, they have a bachelor's, master's, whatever. They don't need a degree. Or 2, they just prepare for CHFM. Okay, typically, anybody preparing CHFM, they prepare for CHFM and they do go on and get the degree. Now, once you get the degree, then you can transfer on. We have several colleges you can transfer on to and I recommend leadership bachelor's, because if you're going into a bachelor's for HFL, you have to develop a lot more leadership skills. You got to get a lot more soft skills. You know, you already have the technical skills. You know, you have to get those management skills really in place. I would, and this is another shift here. I want to finish the HFL bachelor's though. And I just don't have enough students foundationally in the program. I need about 200 students in the program to get a 4-year university to really commit to the bachelor's program.
Oh, okay.
And I already even know what's in the bachelor's program. I know what I left on the table.
Right.
And really it's for the executive director,
Gotcha.
That's what that HFL bachelor's for. HFL associates is for the operational director. It's CHFM, right? You get into, what do you get into? You get to be an executive director. You get into more commissioning, retro commissioning. You get into more into energy management. You can get more into reliability management. You're getting deeper into leadership, things like that. And so that's really what needs to be inside of the bachelor's program for healthcare and project management.
Nice. And how long do you think that would come when it comes to fruition? You're talking.
Well, the moment I get the again, it takes probably about 1 year to 2 years to go through a SACS accreditation. Okay, now what I did with HFL, you start the process as you're in parallel as you're going along with doing the classes, and hopefully by the time they finish the program, the accreditation is waiting for you and the credentials waiting for you.
Okay.
So minimally, it's a 2-year process from go. So and I think I could get it done in 2 years because I already know what the content more or less is. I just have to go through the process. And most people would probably take 2 years to get through it anyway because they're part-time students.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the healthcare facility technician, I think there's a big void in that when it comes to healthcare technician. So speak on that program. You said how many credit hours is it, or how long is it?
So there's actually on classes, I could show a graphic. But in terms of classes, it's basically 6 classes.
Okay.
Okay. You have your HFO 100.
Right.
Okay. Which is part of both pathways. Everyone takes it for any credential. You have what's called infection prevention for the environment of care.
Okay.
Okay. Which is HFL 120. Introduction to healthcare facilities management, HFL 100. Okay. And then you have I have what's called my 2 capstones of classes, and the capstone classes cover a lot of NFPA 99. So we go deeper into what academia does different than professional development, and I think it's very valuable. Is in professional development, you go listen to a speaker, you might do a little engagement, okay, but what you take away are a couple nuggets typically.
Right.
That's the way it works. In academia, you read the text, okay, you apply that text to some application of assignment, and you get tested on that text.
Oh, okay.
So it just gets deeper. You get more ownership of it. And then what I do, I'm a guide by the way, I got promoted to professor recently. I'm excited about that.
Oh,
I
nice.
got that promotion about a month ago. So I used to be an associate professor. Now I'm professor. But the thing is, as a professor, I'm a guide. My goal is to layer the education and what you read in a way that builds on it. So I can guide you on, like, let's start here, let's go here, let's layer this, and this is how this all connects together. And hopefully what that does is that just gives a deeper attention, a deeper learning, and so that the capstones take NFPA 99. We get deeper into medical gas, we get deeper into electrical systems, we're going to get deeper into emergency management, we're going to get a little deeper into, life safety, not so much 99, 101. In 101, we would spend a lot of time in chapter 7, egress, and 18 and 19, existing and new, and 43, those would be the concentrated chapters, right?
Right.
But the goal is for them to really get deep into it. And then more importantly for the technician, I like to do what I call operationalized code. In other words, let's not waste the technician's time on all this design stuff and all this policy procedure stuff that's manager stuff.
Right.
Let's really drill into what is the application side of this code. One very specific example, med gas. There's a very specific piece that tells you how to connect a cylinder. And you would think, well, come on, it's a cylinder.
Right.
But honestly, there's 2-3 nuggets in there that are like very, very, very critically important, and probably one that many people probably don't do. And I'll tell you what it is, but you got to take the class.
Gotcha.
But I'm just saying though, but when they read it for themselves for the first time, even electrical safety, there's some stuff in electrical safety. If you read what it says, how you're supposed to do it, you find stuff and they're like, well, I didn't know that.
Right.
And you're reading it for the first time. And now you know the why behind the what, right? Yeah. So academia, I think that's the power of academia. I really like that in terms of academia. Professional development, you can't put people in a room and make them do that.
Right.
You can, but those are pretty expensive classes too.
Right.
When you go to those. Yeah.
And so
So
the
for
healthcare
me,
facilities technician,
yeah,
that course, and one can take that. It's a standalone course.
now that is a credential and it's a
Okay.
certificate, and you would need to apply for the college. And the good thing is you wouldn't need to have English, reading, and math. Again,
Okay.
industry specific certificate. So and as long as you're paying out of pocket tuition reimbursement, it's real simple. Once you get into financial aid, they may want a little more information. Like they may want to know the previous colleges, of course, you went to before you start. They want your high school transcript before you start. You know, there's certain things they're going to want to have before you get going. Nothing wrong with financial aid. Just saying that there's a few more loops you have you have to go through, loopholes you have to go through, if you will, to take the certificate.
Okay.
And again, it's really made it's accessible. I wanted to do it very accessible, courses for the profession. I didn't want to make too many hurdles. And I realize I've worked with adult learners now. 90% of my students are adult learners, 35 to 50 years old. More than half of them going to school for the first time. So I've really gotten to understand, how to make it as easy as possible for these busy people who are working full time, have life and everything else. Right. And in fact, many times I'll fill out the application for my applicants.
Oh, wow.
If you call me, and we'll just do it over the phone. I get to know you. I do a little background sheet. I get to know you, and then I get to kind of get a sense of your goals and stuff like that. I do as much as I possibly can. And then it also makes sure the application is really clean the first time before we submit it.
Right. No, definitely.
Yeah. So that's that's technician, that's HFT, and it marries to the CHFT. Again, my goal is that every single person that takes the HFT you better pass the CHFT.
Right.
And
the CHFT, what's the main difference there? It's a certification, and you have to take an exam in conjunction with the HFT, or?
Well, again, my goal is to have it in conjunction with those that take the HFT that you're required to take the CHFT, just like you do with a lot of other programs. But the CHFT is also out there for anybody else working in the industry. In fact, more importantly, I think, again, one thing I've learned a little bit in more recent years about human nature is that people filter things in two ways. One, are you a threat? And two, what's in it for me? Those are primary operating. I got that from I went to a couple, I think it was a Florida Healthcare Engineering Association. They had a behaviorist talking. And I went to another conference. They had another person who was a behaviorist talking, and they both reinforced the same idea, and they kind of proved it. And the ideal is that if you can get past those two things, are you a threat and what's in it for me, then people will usually embrace something, right? And unfortunately, academia is a threat to many people because they haven't been to school in a long time. They got all the reasons. It's like exercise and dieting, I want to do it, but it's just all these reasons not to do it, right? And so, and what I have found is the only way you can overcome that threat factor for academia is incentive. What's in it for me? Right. And I already see that playing out right now. I have a couple examples of some health systems that have gotten involved with the CHFT that they had very few people attending until they said, hey, one organization is going to be $250 an hour to pass the CHFT. Boom. Now I got a lot of people engaged, right? They overcame it. But I believe the CHFT is really powerful for people who want to get into our industry. And I've already have several examples. There's one person from Fuji out in California who was working on the railroads. He now works in an administrative building for a large health system. He wants to work in the hospital. So here are these training modules he can take. He can take the CHFT. And I talked to his boss, said, hey, if you're in, actually that was a different one, but I've talked to several of my peers, said if they came to you like this, an electrician, an HVAC person, somebody doing general maintenance in some other kind of building, and they have the CHFT, what do you think? And they're all like, oh, hire him on the spot. So for them, the CHFT is not a threat. It's a ticket.
Right.
And there's an incentive. So really the CHFT is for, in fact, I didn't know I was going to do this, but I put together a complete training course now, prepare for the CHFT for those who become applicants. And in fact, I just finished the last delivery of that course at the local hospital yesterday.
Oh, wow.
I've been training out there for a year, and they're getting ready to all sit for the exam this month, later in the month. But the actual training modules, once I get the video edited, got to get it posted, I marry it with the notes, I marry it with a quiz. When you pass the quiz, you can get a professional development certificate. So once that last piece gets done, which takes us about a week, it'll be posted, and these 21 modules will be available for people to prepare. So if you're an electrician, a plumber, a carpenter, a general maintenance person who wants to get into healthcare, that CHFT is for you. If you're a person working in healthcare, that CHFT is for you as well. But I think the people in healthcare, they're waiting for the incentive.
Right.
The people outside healthcare, once they find out about it, they're like, ha, this is my way in. And
Right.
that's
I got
really
you.
the key thing about what I'm doing is I'm creating pathways to open the doors for more people to enter.
And the
My goal,
CHFT, is that, sorry to cut you off there, but is it it's an exam? Is it open
yes.
book? How long is the
No, it's
exam?
145 question, 144 question exam. It was certified under NOCTI. They're a national certification organization. Took us about a year to get it certified, get the pilot, get it all done. And so basically right now we're giving people a year once you sign up to take it. Now we're going to
Okay.
shorten that time now that the library's done.
Right.
Because I knew people were asking, how do you prepare? How do you prepare? I provided all the content to prepare for the exam, but now I've really developed a lot more. Again, if you take the training modules, I would say we should at least have a 70% pass rate. Okay. It may be better. If you take the HFT program, I should almost have 100% pass rate because it's so specific, to the CHFT. So I just created as many ways as possible to allow people to get access, to get experience. And really what was fascinating about when I did the pilot and we actually did the CHFT through NOCTI, and this is good and bad. They basically said to us, okay, so when you do these certifications, basically somebody with, 5 years of experience should pass this test. Most certifications are in most industries. You take people who have about 5 years of experience, you built a test around that 5 years of experience, and then those people should pass the test. And then you pull together 100 people with different years of experience, and they crunch all these numbers and they come up with these results. Well, we did that, and we had, I think it was 100 or so technicians take the exam of varying experience. Less than 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 25, 20 plus. When we did the exam and finished it, based on the score we set, which was, I think 75 or 70, nobody passed.
Oh, wow.
And they were surprised. They were like, we've never seen anything like this before. I said, well, the reality is our industry understands certain areas, but they kind of work in silos, and very few people have like a comprehensive understanding. So there's ventilation, there's life safety, there's med gas, there's electrical, there's going to be infection prevention, there's going to be departments and special features. These are all areas that are general areas in our industry. And usually people are kind of strong in one or the other, but not all of them. That's what we found. But they should know these things. These are foundational things. And then the foundational pieces were put together by lots of peers. And it took me 2 years to put together the competencies that made up the exam. And a lot of my peers who represent thousands of hospitals or thousands of employees said, yes, these are things our technicians should know. So I had to have all that before I even went to NOCTI, because they want to make sure you had all that. It was based on code and regulation. So when they saw all that, said, okay, so this is all based, yes, it's foundational. But they were surprised that no one passed it. We had to actually adjust the exam a little bit. So we have questions that we weighted a little differently. And when we did that, we got the score down to, I think it was a 69 point something, and we had 2 people pass.
Oh, wow.
And so we know there's a great need. And they're like, wow, this is, and the people who put the test together with me, we were very energized by this, because we realized we were doing something very significant here. Recognize this is a great need that needs to be filled. Like you said, there's a gap for bringing people in, for getting a foundation in place. You see it all the time as a life safety person, it's really wild, wild west what people know and don't know.
Right. No, definitely.
Exactly. And so this hopefully starts to lay that foundation down where most people have very common knowledge that work in healthcare facilities.
Okay.
And then,
no, go ahead. I was going to say, does this all prepare you for the CHFM as well?
Or no. CHFM is management and leadership. This is technician, pure technician. I do have something that we'll come back. I'll come back in about a year, and I have big news.
Okay.
For the technician pathway, because the technicians, I'm building that towards a diploma and a degree.
Okay.
But I want to build in more experiential credit.
Okay.
Okay, I'll leave you with that. So that's going to keep going. I'm not done with the technician pathway. The certificate is the beginning with the certification. That's the beginning. But what's really important about certifications, when I finished my master's degree a couple of years ago, I did it around organizational leadership, and I focused on pathways and development certification, and looked around. I did papers on why are some certifications more valuable than others, and I looked at several case studies. And one of the things that I found was the most valuable certifications have the most direct applicability to the job. Okay, that was important. The second thing about certifications is if you have a good certification, it really promotes authenticity of a job. Okay. And the biggest thing that's really important about certifications is the maintenance of ongoing education and professionalism.
Right.
And so for me, I think that's a huge need we have in our industry. Our industry has changed so dramatically. You can go point back to 4, 5, 6 things that have happened in recent months and years and see how we're being expected to do more, know more, deliver more than ever.
Oh, yeah.
At every level. And so really what we need to do is we need to have, in fact, in HFO 100, the last section, I look at kind of where are we going in this industry. And one of the things that's coming, these lines are all coming together. You probably heard about Target Zero. You know, the Joint Commission has sort of taken it on as kind of their own. They've kind of modified a little bit. It's been around for a while, Target Zero. In other words, they want to eliminate, you know, certain issues in healthcare. They want incremental improvement. They want us to go like zero, right? And it's tied closely to healthcare associated conditions, you know, which is a 2014, you know, hospitals get penalized. If you're in the 25th percentile, they automatically take money away from you now. You know, if you fall in 25th percentile, out of 4,000 participating hospitals, almost 2,000 have already fallen short and have to give money back.
Oh, wow.
You know, and associated to infections and ulcers and bed sores and trips and falls. And they want that to be zero. Right. And when you get to Target Zero, though, and it's about high reliability organizations, it's driven on high reliability organizations, which are nuclear and airline and things like that. There's 3 key things to create this Target Zero high reliability organization. 1 is leadership buy-in. 2 is you've got to change your culture. You got to have a culture of safety. You have a culture where people can talk and speak into each other's lives. You got to have, again, a culture of safety. And the third thing is Joint Commission says performance improvement, but also it's equated to continuous education. And those 3 things, you got to have those 3 things. You got to really focus on those 3 things. And I'm driving this continuous education piece. And going back to the certification, that's what it does. It drives continuous education because we have to keep up. You know, we need to keep learning our job. We need to become professionals at our job. You know, we never get satisfied. One of my favorite sayings, and I have several like this, Mickey Mantle. You know, for those who are young, baseball player, probably one of the most famous baseball player, you know, you would consider him a legend, right? Mickey Mantle. And late in his life, he made this comment. It's funny. He goes, I'm amazed at how little I know about the game I've been playing my whole life. Because as you learn, and the facility directors, we know this all the time. As you learn more, you peel back, there's so much more. And there's so much more. And there's so much more. And that's what he was saying. And so everyone needs to have that same sort of mentality. You know, it's amazing how little we know about this game, about this facility we've been working in our whole life.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely.
And that's really the performance improvement mentality. You know, that's what it's about. And so I'm hoping that's what CHFT drives. I know that's what CHFM drives. You know, you get that certification. Now you got 45 CEUs every 3 years, at least.
Right.
You know, you got to maintain that education. We should have the same expectations, I believe, of everybody that works in facilities.
Now, the HFL program, a lot of those folks that took that course, did they eventually take the CHFM?
Oh, yeah. A lot of them do. And I'm proud to say, I mean, nearly everyone has passed it first time. In fact, all but one. But he waited 2 years to take it.
Okay.
And that's those. Now they don't all report back to me, but I mean, I've had a lot of them that passed it first time. It did great first time, and expressed about how the HFL program, again, it really did prepare them for the CHFM.
Yeah, the CHFM it's a tough exam. So I know there's a high first time failure rate on that.
I think it was around 39% is the pass rate.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was wondering what that percentage rate was. You just answered it. So it sounds like it definitely prepares you for the CHFM, which is a big deal in the healthcare facility management world.
Yeah, I mean, the HFL program is built around codes of compliance, project management, maintenance and operations, you know, leadership, which are the cores, you know, of, and we do a fair bit of energy as well, energy management in there. Not enough, but some. But those are the cores of the CHFM.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, and the one thing it does too, I'll tell you one thing about academia too, is it really teaches folks how to risk assess. We're always risk assessing, and we need to know where information is. And those are 2 big other key pillars of the HFL program is finding information and risk assessing. And one of the other intangibles of going to school, working and everything of adult learners that I found is that time management. You want to talk about people that have to learn time management. I mean, if you're going to school, you're working, you're living life, you really have to manage your time. And if there's any one thing about a facility manager, you have to learn to time manage in a big way. So they definitely get that skill. And it usually takes a student about 3.5 years or so to get to that associates if they start at 0.
Okay.
So that's 3.5 years of learning time management.
Right. That's because they're taking it part-time.
Yeah. Well, and then again, they've all said, once they get into the job, they let go of the classroom stuff. Now I've had several that have gone on to masters and bachelors too. In fact, I have a couple of just graduating master's programs that they've gone to from the HFL program. Okay. And they're just now finishing up, but it definitely helps them in the job in terms of time management, which again is a super valuable skill when it comes to being an FM.
So I do notice that I've watched a lot of you have training modules on YouTube, and it's on your channel.
Those old ones. Yeah, those are some of the classroom lectures. Yeah,
they're very valuable. And one of them that stuck with me that I watched, and to me it was actually profound, and it's one of those soft skills for leadership, and it's human first, human last. Can you expand on that and explain that?
Well, again, leadership at HFL, leadership program, and I even dive back to this ideal, what I said earlier about the 2 driving priorities of people. Are you a threat? What's in it for me?
Right.
And what happens is in facilities, we're always in and out of relationships. And again, it's about relationships. That's the key. It's about relationships. And me, I'm an electronic engineering kind of background. I'm probably on some spectrum of something, where I'm a problem solver. I mean, I fell in love with the scientific formula as a kid about fixing problems, solving problems. And the very first thing in that whole thesis is identifying problems. First, you must identify the problem. And so my approach to a lot of things are okay, what's the problem? And I want to drill into the problem. And what I found out as a technician, that's fantastic. I mean, I've solved lots of complex issues as a technician. But when you get into leadership, while you are a problem solver, more importantly, and I sometimes learned the hard way, you have to get by and build that relationship first. Mm. And most importantly is that, especially with new relationships, people who you haven't built a rapport with, people that don't really know you or understand you. And so the idea behind human first and human last is always remember is to create that human connection in the beginning. Right. And then leave, making a human connection on the back end. It's like a bookend. You want to bookend it. I remember my technicians in biomed, I had this whole process about delivering a service call. A lot of it had to do with communication and relationship building. One of the most important pieces at the end was, I call it the icing on the cake. After you fixed and repaired the problem, call them back and say, is this still working okay? And is there anything else I can do? Now, granted, most of us never want to do that. It's a hard thing to do. Right. You've done the job, you're moving on. But to just do that with some, not all the time, but just do that with some regularity, just tells that person, that you care. And that idea that they know that you care. And the thing is, once people know you care, you don't have to quit. I'm going to say you shouldn't do that. You don't have to quit work on that quite so hard, because then you have a relationship now. Right. And so, the people that you're around, your friends, where you can just be you, be very relaxed. But again, when you're working in a leadership role, people have preconceived ideals or conceptions about what you are or who you are. Right. And if you really focus on that human first, human last connection in between trying to solve the problem, you'd be amazed at how much quicker you actually get to solving the problem, because more people will kind of work with you, right, versus work against you. And this is some of those things that, again, I took a personal organizational leadership master's. A lot of it kind of does focus around that and other things. But I definitely noticed that was one of the big focuses on that master's program as well. Really trying to establish, and I like to say that, facility manager, we're bridges. Sometimes we're a pontoon bridge. Sometimes we're a drawbridge. Sometimes we're an expansion bridge. We're just, we have to change what kind of bridge we are all the time. So we're always kind of adapting. And so that human first, human last, and one thing that I've done very intentionally, and people notice this, I'm sure, is that I always open up all my emails. I'd say 90% of them with greetings, a salutation. I try not to just jump into the message. Right. Just to have some, and then at the end, I end with the word best in my emails. That's one little example of me saying, look, greetings, and best. And I try hard to do something else. Whenever I have a meeting, I try hard to recognize something that we talked about that's personal to them, especially new relationships in the beginning. Again, and like I said, I may be on some spectrum of Asperger's. This has been somewhat mechanical for me to have to do. It's not in my natural nature. I just want to go start solving problems. And so for me, it's kind of been an exercise that I've exercised on, and I feel like it's getting easier. It's just more natural to me now.
Right.
But I've been working at it for years, and I like to share that with my students, because a lot of students that I have, like I said, were technicians coming into leadership. And so I want them to take advantage of what I learned, maybe sometimes the hard way, and we all want that. That's one thing I love about, what I do, is that I'm able to take some of what I experience and I like to say, I try to pack 10 years of experience into basically this 2-year program and get you 10 years and get you 8 years ahead.
Right.
By the time you come out of it, you know what I mean? And you can feel more prepared. So I really felt like it took me quite a while to kind of get my feet, in the role and in the job when I stepped into it.
No, there's something to be said about that, I think, because I think a lot of times we don't realize that we are in the information age. A lot of times now you can, go to YouTube and figure something out. And so while you still need that hands-on experience, I think gaining that information has been expedited, as opposed to, let's say, back in the days, you had to have someone who would take you in, show you the ropes, and now you can go get that information yourself. Granted, you still need that hands-on experience, but I think we lose sight sometimes that we are in the information age in real time right now. And it's just something that I think we lose sight of.
Yeah. And again, I like to bridge those two worlds together too, because while I provide in the online medium sort of this information, right? What I love, especially with my students in the industry, of course, is that they go to work and apply it.
Right.
They see things they never saw before. It's always been there, but now because they read it, they see it. And I don't know how many times I've seen them say, yeah, I've heard them talking about this for years. Now I know what they're talking about. Or, I went into work and guess what? We have exactly that. One of my favorite stories, I won't say his name, although I know that if I could call him, he'd say it'd be okay. But he was a technician HVAC person who said to me, as he was finishing and doing the program, why do I have to know all this stuff? I'll never use this stuff. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't making the connection.
Right.
And then he got a job as a director. And he got up with me a while back after he got the job, says, you know what? Every single thing you taught, he goes, I'm back in the HFL program again. He goes, I'm using all of it.
Nice.
It was just because he didn't have that he hadn't experienced it yet. And so hopefully in the HFL program and the HFT program, they're able to, again, not just see it, but they're able to apply it. Now, granted, I know I'm going to be bringing people in that don't work in healthcare. Okay. They're going to be more like the traditional, but that knowledge still, when they get in the job, they're going to come at it differently.
Right.
They're going to, like I like to say, that I don't want you to unsee what I'm about to show you. And so they'll walk in and they'll just go, one of my favorites is a IT person in the HFO class who said he'll never, ever look at above ceiling the same again.
Wow.
IT, right? We complain about IT all the time. This is an IT
our
person saying,
we're
going, this is an IT person saying this,
right?
And which is fantastic. That's exactly what you want. You want them to, because they just don't know. They're just running a cable,
right?
They're just trying to get the job done. So, I really do think that, the applied learning is the way to go. I wish we could generate a program that was more internship, apprenticeship oriented, tied to online learning. I think that would be an ideal program. I am kind of excited to announce that Northern California Sutter Health has created an apprenticeship program. Okay. They have a mechanical side and they have an academic side. The academic side is built off my program. So they have about 7 or 8 classes they're using, not using just the HFT classes. They actually picked a couple of leadership classes because they wanted their folks to go a little deeper in compliance.
Okay.
And so they picked a couple of the leadership classes. They wanted a little more depth for their technicians even. But they have pulled together an apprenticeship program that combines, again, some applied learning there and the parts of the HFT HFL program. So so they're actually doing, and they're going to be doing again they're going to be hiring apprentices into the organization. So that's one, and I've been working with them for several years on this, and so that's official now, and that's just getting started this fall, I believe. So so people are, but I really wish we had more of that connection, between bringing young people in, putting them into here. You can learn on the environment. here, take this online class, pull those two things together.
Right.
You know, and I think they would grow very quickly, very quickly. Yeah. So, you know, I really do think that there's a place for the two together, you know, bringing those two worlds together. I think that's the best way to do it, you know?
And so how can, when do the classes start for the HFL program? Are they different? You have to register in the fall session or?
Yeah. We have 3 semesters, basically. You know, we start August, we start January. In fact, I have class summer session starts here on, so not this coming up Monday, but the following Monday. I think it's the 13th or so. So we have those 3 sessions. Now that HFO 100 class, because it's 8 weeks, I'm actually going to be starting that class, like sliding it, you know, as long as I start and finish it within the semester, I can kind of, you know, I can do multiple sessions of that class. Okay. And so my goal is to be able to run, like, I think I'm going to have 3 sessions, one in the beginning. I'll delay one about 3 weeks, and I'll do one at what I call the buy term, middle of the semester. So there'll be 3 different start dates for that 1 credit hour class, because I think it's going to be extraordinarily popular. And so that one there, again, it's going to be a little different. I'm actually thinking about maybe trying to turn that into a professional development course.
Okay.
You know, because one thing, this is really fascinating. So they put a lot of time in terms of about 20 to 30 hours into that class. And what's interesting is they wanted to know where's their certificates. In academia, you get a credit hour and you get a transcript, but you don't get a certificate, right?
Right.
Because I mean, it's a lot of time. They essentially, if you're doing this professional development, they would get like 8 certificates worth about, you know, 20 to 30 CECs. Right. And they want to paper their wall. So that is one of the interesting things. And I do think there is a way to turn it into a professional development course, you know, just like you would for other things. But I'm looking into that, and I'm working with the college, you know, on that. Right now, it's purely academic. You know, you have to sign up, put in an application, and I try to make that as painless as possible. You know, I will enroll you in the class. Yeah, I even save that pain. You know, I will enroll you. As long as you tell me the right words from the right email address, I can enroll you, right? Nice. And I send you confirmation. And then if you want to go beyond that, then you have to get more ownership and more engaged as a student.
Right.
You know, if you want to get into one of the certificate programs or whatever. So, yeah. So August, January, and like I said, start summer term, which is 8-week term.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And how can folks get a hold of you? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you
I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn. And then of course you can give my email address from mike.canales@kctcs.edu. You know, that's the academic hat that I wear as a professor. You know, if people want to get involved with the certification, the CHFT, there's a website, you know, it's, you know, www, but it's ihfea.com. It stands for the Institute of Healthcare Facilities Engineering Advancement. A lot of words, but ihfea.com. Easy enough to find. Just search CHFT, Certified Healthcare Facility Technician. I'm sure you'll find it that way too if you Google. Okay. You know, but you can go there. There's references. There's source books. There's, you know, again, the library is available once you become an applicant. Okay, and the application fee is $50. The actual certification exam seat is $200.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Yeah, the maintenance fee is $50 a year. You know, that's to maintain that certification. So, and again, and I tried to make it as, I didn't know I was going to do that video library, but now that I've done it, you know, again, I really didn't want to do it. I thought, well, people should study, and you know, but now that I've done it, I'm so proud. I'm so glad and proud. It took a lot to get that library done. And like I said, I'm excited, especially at this moment, because I just finished the last module yesterday.
Wow.
so it's been a year of labor, you know, that I'm glad to be at this chapter. And I'm actually going to be doing a companion certification called CHLT, Certified Healthcare Long-Term Technician, because I'm working with several long-term care organizations. And while there's quite a bit of overlap, of the 21 modules, there's about 17 that overlap.
Right.
For long-term care, there's about another 10 that they have responsibilities for that aren't traditional or typical to hospital environment.
Interesting.
So they deal with air temperature more. They deal with water temperature more. They deal with fire panel more. You know, they deal with elopement more and trip and falls more, decorations. They have all these other things they deal with in a long-term care facility that are kind of maybe foreign to a hospital person. Now, you have a lot of hospitals that have long-term care, extended care
departments and whatnot
on the floor, but these rehabilitation facilities, it's obviously a lot more intense.
Definitely.
And they hire, just think about who they hire. They hire off the street, and so how do you get them ready?
Right.
And so my goal is to have my goal is to have about 27 modules for them to go through and really and help them create, because long-term care to me is one of those areas of healthcare that, again, you talk about us not having anything, not having a pathway.
Right.
What do they have?
Yeah. I didn't think about that. You're right.
Oh no. And especially what we've been through with hurricanes, Katrina, and generators, what we've been through just recently with pandemics.
Right.
The building plays a big role. In fact, one of my saying is healthcare facilities is clinically involved. The building is clinically involved. We're very clinically involved.
Yeah.
And we may not be at the bedside, but we are clinically involved. And so because of that, and it's becoming more relevant every day, the importance of us to maintain our skills, like what's changing more recent, what's changing. Let's see, ventilation standards are going to be changing big time.
Definitely.
Exhaust standards just changed fairly dramatically in the newest design in ASHRAE. Okay. Water standards have changed pretty dramatically on us already. Expectations on life safety have changed, even more recently. There's 3 or 4 different elements of performance and standards out there, and from CMS to say we have to have people who are documented competency-based trained on pretty much everything. MedGas, and it comes to MedGas qualified MedGas inspectors, not certified, but qualified, right?
Right.
Qualified door inspectors, not certified, but qualified. So all that language I just mentioned to you just now is all within the last, 4 years? Yeah, 4 years, maybe 5.
Yeah.
So all that language has been piling on us, for the last 5 years, and it's not stopping. So really they're messaging to us, you need to have some sort of specific development, competency-based development, which is what I'd say I've done. I basically have built it, and my goal is to hopefully see this program grow, but to also help other programs to grow. Nice. Because it wasn't my goal to have the only program in the country. My goal was to get it running and then be one of several programs in the country as our industry embraces a pathway.
Oh, definitely. I think you're doing something great for the industry that's much needed. There's been a long void as it pertains to competency-based training for healthcare facility technicians. So I think this is the right move. And
no, Ruben, I appreciate the opportunity, because like I said, this has been 8 years to kind of be able to tell you what I told you today. Right. I could tell you pieces of this over the years. Today, I can tell you this really pretty complete story that really, again, it took almost 8 years to get here.
Wow.
And we're not done, but this is a fantastic foundation to really build on now.
No, definitely.
And you're allowing me to share that with the profession that I've committed 34 years to this profession now. People, right. I consider myself an FM today still. I know I'm an educator. I know I work at a college. I know I'm a professor. Sometimes people ask me, what do you do? Right. and I don't necessarily fit sometimes, I still see myself as a peer in the industry. Right. I see myself, because I work so closely with hospitals. I work so closely with directors and managers and technicians around the country. When the pandemic happened, I can't begin to tell you all the conversations I was having around this country. Hundreds of conversations I was having, everything from UV to, creating negative pressure to, going down and visiting nursing homes and helping them, to all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
That's interesting that you've adapted your curriculum to have a pandemic module. So commend you on that. I'm interested to take a peek at that myself.
Yeah, working in healthcare during the pandemic, that's kind of the module,
Right.
And it really does try to tap into, what shifts. And again, it's fluid. Even within the pandemics, it's fluid. And I wrote it as pandemic, not COVID-19. It's pandemic, because this is one of what will be others that will certainly come down the road.
Definitely.
But I appreciate that. Yeah, that was another work of I remember last year I did, I think, six webinars on pandemic.
Okay.
Starting back last April, we were doing pandemic modules, trying to get lessons learned and try to learn and try to get the information out, especially creating like negative pressure rooms or anti rooms, outside of ORs, things like that. There was some crazy stuff going on that we were all doing, dealing with med gas and freezing oxygen,
Right.
systems, on and on and on. All this stuff was going on, not having enough gas going to our ventilators and our floors, not knowing our pipe sizes. I mean, it was just,
Right.
there was so much happening so quickly for some of us. And we were able to sort of like bring that together and have that conversation. And like I said, I was just having all these conversations for about 5 or 6 months, day in and day out. So pretty neat.
Yeah. Well, man, I want to thank you for coming on the Life Safety Podcast, and I appreciate what you're doing for the industry. I think it's much needed, like I said, and like to have you on as a return guest here when things get a little bit more going here and see where we're at here in a year from now.
No, I appreciate it, Ruben. Listen, I love to get down there to Texas too. I have students from Texas. I think I spoke at TAFM a couple times. Hope to speak down at TAFM again. And like I said, I have family in Texas, got property in Texas, just outside of San Antonio. So I do get down there, and I look forward to hopefully, getting together again.
Oh, definitely. We'll definitely do it.
All right, Ruben.
All right. We'll see you, Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll see you. Take care. Bye.
You too.